Okay, let's unpack this. We are looking at a specific slice of the world today, the Westchester area real estate market, right at the start of 2026.
A very interesting slice.
It is, because looking at the data we have in front of us, and this covers January through early February, I am staring at what looks like a massive contradiction.
It certainly presents a puzzle if you just skim the headlines, yeah.
A puzzle. I feel like it's a paradox,
Yeah.
because on one hand, you've got these reports screaming unprecedented seller's market.
Inventory is non-existent.
Exactly. You'd think buyers are, camping out on sidewalks. But then I look at the actual data, the numbers, and homes are just sitting there for months.
For a very long time in some cases.
Over 4 months on average. So that's our mission for this deep dive.
Mhm.
We need to explain how a market can be incredibly hot and incredibly slow at the exact same time.
It is the perfect topic for this. And we have a really solid stack of evidence to work with. We're looking at weekly market reports from the Cyr Team, that's Jan 9th, Jan 23rd, 30th, and Feb 6th of 2026.
And we've got some local news snapshots, too, which sort of paint the background scenery of what's happening on the ground in Chester County.
Right. It all adds context.
So to everyone listening, if you are in or around Chester County, or you're just fascinated by how real estate markets get weird, stick around. We're going to figure out if this is a boom, a bust, or something else.
I think the best way to frame it is as a tug of war. The headlines are screaming hot market because, well, supply is critically low, but the granular data, the stuff we're about to dig into, it shows that buyers are disciplined.
Disciplined.
Yeah, they aren't just throwing money at anything with a for sale sign anymore.
Okay, so let's start with that supply issue, because that seems to be the engine driving this whole seller's market story. I see this term months of inventory all the time. What's the magic number here?
The magic number is months of inventory. And in a healthy, a balanced market where neither side has the upper hand, you typically see about 6 months of it.
6 months. So that means if no new houses came on the market, it would take half a year to sell everything.
Exactly. That's normal.
Okay. So where was Westchester in January and February 2026?
We were hovering between 0.8 and 0.9 months.
Wow. Okay. Less than 1 month.
Less than 1 month. The entire period we're looking at, it never broke above 0.9. That is an extreme imbalance. Technically, that is a strong seller's market.
That makes me feel anxious just hearing it. It implies that if you see a house you like on a Saturday, you have to write the check before you finish your coffee.
That's the feeling that scarcity creates. But I want to pause on that percentage for a second because 0.8 months can feel a little abstract. When you look at the raw numbers in the reports, it gets even tighter.
I was looking at that. The actual number of listings seemed stuck. Like, what are we actually talking about in terms of raw doors open for business?
Okay, so on January 9th, there were exactly 80 active listings, the entire Westchester area school district.
80.
2 weeks later, January 23rd, 81.
That's barely a budge in a district that big.
And then look at January 30th. It actually drops to 75 listings. And by February 6th, we've kind of clawed our way back up to 84.
So we are talking about a market that is essentially running on fumes. When you have a school district as popular as Westchester with only, 75 to 85 homes available, that's not just low inventory, that's an empty shelf.
Precisely. And the reports mention this directly. They say buyers need to be prepared to make swift decisions because there just isn't much out there.
Okay, so if we stop the deep dive right here, any rational person would assume prices are skyrocketing weekly and homes are selling in 24 hours. That's supply and demand 101, right?
In theory, yes, but that is absolutely not what is happening on the ground.
And this is where I got confused. I was looking at the pricing trends, and I felt like I was on a roller coaster.
The pricing data is fascinating. It really highlights how volatile a small sample size can be.
Volatile is the word. Look at the median price. January 9th, it's $720,500. Okay, solid. 2 weeks later, it drops to $670,000. I'm thinking, did the market just crash? But then, bam. 1 week later, January 30th, the median spikes to $775,000. And then it settles back to $692,000 the next week.
And for a listener trying to time the market, that looks like pure chaos.
It looks like the stock market, not the housing market.
But you have to remember, we just said there are only about 80 homes. So if 3 or 4 multi-million-dollar estates, say somewhere like Greystone or near Hershey's Mill, hit the market on the same day, that median shoots up.
And if they sell or a bunch of smaller townhomes get listed, it drops back down.
Exactly. The pool is just too shallow.
So the median is sensitive. But you pointed out something really interesting about the gap between the median and the average price.
This is a crucial distinction. The median, the middle of the market, is in that high $600K, low $700K range. But the average price, it is consistently over $1 million.
Over $1 million. That is a massive gap.
It is. On January 30th, when that median was $775,000, the average price was about $1.065 million.
So what does that tell us?
It tells us there's a really heavy top end to this market. There are luxury listings that are skewing the math way, way up.
Which lines up with the price range in the reports. I saw the lowest entry point was consistently around $215,000, but the top end was way up at $3.276 million.
Exactly. So the market isn't just one thing. It's a mix of accessible starter homes, and accessible is relative at $215K.
Right. That's probably a fixer-upper.
Probably. And these high-end luxury estates. And those estates are important because they are driving that billion-dollar valuation figure we'll get to.
Okay, let me recap. We have almost zero inventory. Prices are averaging over $1 million. Logic says buyers should be fighting tooth and nail for anything. But here comes the twist, and this is the part that breaks my brain a little bit. The days on market.
The DOM. This is where the paradox lives.
It just doesn't match the story. On January 30th, which was the fastest week in our dataset homes, we're averaging 105 days on the market. That's 3.5 months.
And that was the fast week.
Right. Look at January 23rd. The average was 137 days. February 6th, it was 131. So I have to ask, if inventory is 0.8 months, we're literally running out of houses. Why is the average house collecting dust for 4.5 months?
It signals price resistance. Think of it like a popular restaurant with only 5 tables.
Okay, low inventory, I'm with you.
Usually there's a line out the door, right? But what if right now people are sitting at those tables for 4 hours? That's your high DOM. Because the menu prices are so astronomically high that they're refusing to order. They're just sitting there looking at the menu and saying, I'm not paying that.
So sellers are getting greedy.
Or just optimistic. Sellers know inventory is low. They hear sellers market on the news, so they price their homes aggressively high, maybe testing that $1 million average we talked about.
And buyers are just saying no thanks.
Buyers are pushing back. They are desperate, yes, but they aren't willing to just wildly overpay. And we have proof of this in the price reduction metric.
Yes, I circled that column in red. Consistently across every single week, between 14.3% and 17.3% of all active listings had price cuts.
That is a very high number for a market with less than 1 month of supply. In a truly frenzied market, you don't see price cuts. You see bidding wars over asking. Here, almost 1 in 5 sellers has to say, okay, maybe I aimed too high.
The report even talks about stale inventory. Is that just a polite real estate term for junk? Are these just bad houses?
Not necessarily. The analysis suggests that fresh, well-priced homes in hot neighborhoods, Hershey's Mill is mentioned by name, those still fly off the shelf.
Okay.
But the average DOM is getting dragged down by older listings that are just overpriced for what they are.
So the 130-day average is misleading. It's not that every house takes that long. It's that the mispriced ones sit for 300 days and the good ones sell in 3.
Exactly. It's a bifurcated market. You have the hot layer and the stale layer. And the report from January 23rd gives specific advice on this. It says, and I'm quoting, homes averaging 137 days on market negotiate confidently, especially on listings 60-plus days.
I love that. It's basically telling buyers, don't be scared of the seller's market label. If that house has been sitting for 2 months, go make a deal.
It's empowering for the buyer. The scarcity creates urgency, but the stale inventory creates leverage. You just have to know which pile the house is in.
I want to zoom out to the neighborhoods for a minute, because we're throwing around numbers, but this is a real place. And there's a staggering stat in the report about how much money these homeowners made last year.
You're talking about the appreciation number.
Yes. It says Westchester area homeowners saw $1.74 billion in appreciation in 2025. Billion. With a B.
It's a massive injection of wealth into the community.
But what does that actually mean? Is that just paper money?
It's equity. If you owned a home in 2025, you basically got a huge bonus check added to your net worth. It also explains why the stakes are so high for buyers. They're watching that wealth train leave the station.
And we're seeing this wealth in specific spots. The reports name drop Westchester Borough, East and West Goshen, Thornbury, and then developments like Greystone and Meridell Farms.
Those are the engines driving that appreciation. And it's worth noting the regional context here. One of the news snapshots we have mentions that Chester County is defying national trends.
Oh, the National Cool Down article.
Right. While the broader U.S. housing market might be cooling, the data says Chester County prices are surging far beyond U.S. norms. It mentions the mainline influence creeping outward.
Like a bubble of prosperity that refuses to pop. Speaking of which, I love the little local news tidbits in these reports.
Yeah.
It gives you a flavor of what's happening, like the Sheetz versus Wawa war.
In Downingtown, right?
Yes. A new Sheetz opening right across from a Wawa. For anyone not from Pennsylvania, this is like Godzilla fighting King Kong. But why would a real estate report care about a convenience store?
It implies commercial aggression and growth. Big chains don't invest millions in declining areas. They build where the population is growing. It's a proxy for economic health.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, there was the note about Aqua PA donating a generator to the Westchester Food Cupboard.
Which signals community resilience. It's not just about luxury homes and gas stations. It's about infrastructure and stability. That stuff matters to buyers, too.
And just to hammer home the luxury status, another article noted 7 Chester County places made the list of 50 richest neighborhoods in Pennsylvania. So, yeah, high income, high stakes.
Which brings us back to the practical question. If you are a normal person just trying to buy or sell a house in Westchester in early 2026, what do you do with all this?
Okay, let's role play. I'm a seller. I'm reading inventory is 0.8 months, and I'm thinking I can list my house for $1 million and just wait for the bidding war.
And that would be a catastrophic mistake right now.
Why? I have all the leverage. I have the supply.
Because of the days on market number. If you overprice, you become a statistic. You become part of that 130-day average. The expert advice from the Cyr Team is clear. You have to position your home well. If you get greedy, the market punishes you with silence.
So don't be one of the 17% who has to do a price reduction.
Exactly. A price reduction is like blood in the water. It tells buyers you were wrong, and now they have the leverage. You want to be the fresh listing that sells in week 1, not the stale one negotiating in month 4.
Okay, now for the buyers. This feels daunting. Low inventory, high prices. Is it hopeless?
Not at all. I'd argue this data is actually more encouraging for buyers than the headlines suggest.
How so? The shelves are empty.
But the menu is full of things nobody's ordering. That stale inventory is your opportunity. The report explicitly advises buyers to look for rare openings and use the stalling market time to negotiate. If a house has been sitting for 60 days, that seller is tired. They are stressed. That's where you can win.
We actually have a specific example of this in the source material. Brittany B.
Right, the client review.
I really connected with her story. She said she wanted to get into the uber-competitive Westchester market for the schools. And she sounded terrified, like she thought she'd be hunting for a year.
Very common fear. People assume they'll lose 20 offers.
But she found a home in 3 to 4 months.
Which matches the data perfectly. 3 to 4 months is, what, 90 to 120 days? Right in line with that average DOM we kept seeing. It shows that if you're patient, you can find a spot.
So don't let the 0.8-month supply number scare you off. That number is scary, but the 131 days on market is your friend.
Precisely. It's a market of contradictions. You have to play both sides of the data. Use the scarcity to move fast on a good one, but use the high DOM to hammer down the price on the ones that are lingering.
So to summarize our mission, we asked how Westchester could be a seller's market and a slow market at the same time. And the answer seems to be scarcity versus fatigue.
Scarcity versus pricing fatigue, yes. There are very few homes, so sellers feel powerful. But prices have risen so high, remember that $1.74 billion, that buyers are just hitting a ceiling. They cannot or will not pay more, so homes sit.
It's a standoff.
A high-stakes standoff.
And as we wrap this up, what's the one thing sticking in your brain? What's the question we should be asking as we look forward into 2026?
You know, I keep coming back to those price reductions. If inventory stays this low 0.8 months, basic economics says prices should keep skyrocketing, but they aren't. We're seeing those 14, 15, 17% price cuts every single week.
So what does that mean?
It makes me wonder, are we seeing the absolute limit of what buyers in this area can afford, regardless of how badly they want to live in Westchester, regardless of the schools? If the money isn't there, the money isn't there. If price reductions keep happening despite historically low inventory, we might be watching the market hit its affordability ceiling in real time.
That is a heavy thought. It's not just supply and demand anymore. It's about the wallet.
It's the ultimate reality check.
Well, there you have it. If you're watching the Westchester market, look beyond the sold in 2 days signs. Watch that days on market number. That is where the real story is happening. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
We'll see you next time.